The moon hung low in the sky, casting a pale silver glow over the empty streets. The city was silent, save for the occasional distant hum of the passing car. Ryan walked alone, her steps heavy and rhythmic against the cracked pavement. Her heart felt as if it had been shattered into a thousand pieces, the sharp sting of betrayal still fresh and stinging. The images of Taehyung and Yoonji intertwined in her mind, each thought twisting the knife deeper. Her anger mingled with heartbreak was an unbearable weight, but it was only thing keeping her moving forward. Her hands were clenched into tight fists, her jaw set in a grim line. A few tears escaped from her eyes. As she walked, her mind replayed the moment she had discovered the affair. The surprised look on Taehyung's face, the guilty eyes of Yoonji, and the way the world had seemed to tilt off its axis. It had been a betrayal of the deepest kind, and now every step felt like a battle against the overwhelming tide of emotions. Without warning, the sound of revving engines broke through her reverie. The two figures on a motorcycle came into view, their laughter loud and jarring against the silence of the night. The riders were wearing helmets, their faces absurd, but their leering voices were unmistakable. Hey, pretty lady, one of them called out, the words tipping with mockery. What are you doing out here all alone? Vian's body tensed, but she kept walking, trying to ignore them. Her emotions were already attempts, but she had no room for more anger. She hoped they'd leave her alone if she didn't engage, but the sound of the bike engine revving louder made it clear that they had no intention of letting her go. Come on, don't be shy, the other rider taunted. We just want to talk. They pulled up alongside her, the bike's engine sputtering and roaring with each acceleration. The riders were both grinning now, their intentions clear. Vian's heart pounded not just from the emotional turmoil but from a rising surge of rage. The world seemed to close in around her, the darkness of the night becoming a cloak for her fury. I said, "Leave me alone." Vian snapped, her voice trembling but resolute. She didn't stop walking, hoping that if she kept moving, they'd eventually tire of following her. Instead, the riders exchanged a glance and smiled. "Or what?" One of them sneered. "What are you going to do about it?" That was the last straw. Vine stopped abruptly, her anger boiling over. She spun around, her eyes flashing with defiant fire. "I've had enough of this night. Get out of my way." The riders laughed, a harsh sound that grated on Vine's nerves. One of them dismounted the bike, removing his helmet, approaching her with a swaggering confidence and a smirk on his face. "Looks like we have got a tough one here. Maybe we'll have some fun after all." Before he could reach her, Vine's instinct kicked in. She swung her fist with a force fueled by her pent up frustration and grief. The punch landed squarely on his jaw, sending him stumbling back in surprise. The force of her blow was enough to make him drop to the ground, clutching his face. The second rider, taken aback by sudden aggression, revved the engine in a panic, his eyes wide behind the helmet. But Vine wasn't finished. She charged him, her movements swift and precise. Her kick landed hard against his bike, toppling it over and sending him sprawling onto the pavement. He scrambled onto his feet, but Ryan was already on him, her fists raining down with the determination born from the betrayal she'd suffered. She took the other one's helmet to hit him. Two men tried to defend themselves, but Ryan's fury gave her a strength that they hadn't anticipated. She dodged their weak attempts to grab her, her anger channeling into every punch and kick. Her movements were fluid and practiced as if she had been training for this moment her entire life. Each blow she delivered was a relief of her emotional pain, each kick a defiance of the betrayal she'd faced. Stay down, she shouted, her voice cracking from the force of her exertion. She landed a particularly fierce punch to the second rider's stomach, causing him to double over, gasping for breath. The first rider, now on his feet again, tried to help his friend, but Ryan was relentless. She spun around and kicked him in the chest, sending him crashing into a nearby wall. The impact left him slumped and dazed, his earlier bravado gone. Breathing heavily, Vine stepped back, her chest heaving as she surveyed the damage. The two men were both on the ground, groaning and trying to collect themselves. Her hands trembled, but her expression was one of a fierce satisfaction. She had taken control of her anger, and for a brief moment it had given her a sense of empowerment amidst the chaos of her emotions. Consider this as a warning, she said coldly, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. Next time, think twice before you bother someone who's clearly not in the mood. Without waiting for a response, Vine turned and walked away, her stride firm and purposeful. The anger still simmered within her, but it was now tempered with a strange sense of release. The night was still dark, but as she continued her walk, the oppressive weight of her betrayal seemed just a little bit lighter. After leaving the two men bruised and shaken on the sidewalk, Anne continued walking briskly, her heart still pounding with adrenaline. She needed to find a place to calm down and gather her thoughts. The air was cool against her skin, a stark contrast to the heat of the recent confrontation. As she turned a corner, she spotted a small park nestled between tall buildings. It was deserted at this late hour, the swing swaying gently in the breeze. Van made her way to a bench under a lone street lamp and sat down heavily. Her hands were shaking, but she clenched them into fists, trying to steady herself. Deep breaths, Van muttered to herself, inhaling deeply through her nose and exhaling slowly. Physical exertion had taken its toll, leaving her muscles sore and her mind racing. She closed her eyes, trying to block out the images of Taehyung and Yoonji that still haunted her thoughts. Suddenly, a voice cut through the silence. Are you okay? Vine's eyes snapped open, her heart leaping into her throat. Standing a few feet away was a young woman with a concerned expression. Clutching a backpack to her chest, she had short, dark hair and wore a simple hoodie and jeans. Yeah, I'm fine, Ryan replied, trying to sound composed despite the tremor in her voice. Just had a rough night. The woman nodded sympathetically, taking a cautious step closer. I saw what happened back there. Those guys, they deserved what they got. Van glanced down at her hands, still tingling from the impact of her punches. I didn't mean to. I just. You defended yourself, the woman interrupted gently, and you were amazing. Vine looked up, meeting the woman's gaze for first time. There was a sincerity in her eyes, a warmth that Vine hadn't expected. She managed a weak smile in response, grateful for the stranger's understanding. I'm Jiyun, the woman said, offering her hand. Vine hesitated for a moment before accepting the handshake. Vine. Nice to meet you, Vine, Jiyun said warmly. Do you want to talk about what happened? Vine sighed heavily, feeling a weight lift off her shoulders at the offer of empathy. I caught my boyfriend cheating with my sister tonight. Jiyun's eyes widened in shock. Oh, Vine, I'm so sorry. Tears welled up in Vine's eyes despite her efforts to hold them back. I can't believe they would do this to me, to us. Jiyun sat down beside her on the bench, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. Sometimes people can be really cruel. Vine wiped away a tear with the back of her hand, her throat tight with emotion. I just thought I knew them. How could they betray me like that? It's not your fault, Jiyun reassured her. They made those choices, not you. They sat in silence for a few moments, the sound of distant traffic filling the space between them. Vine felt a strange sense of relief in Jiyun's presence, as if a burden had been shared and lightened. Thank you for listening, Vine finally said, her voice steadier now. Of course, Jiyun replied with a small smile. Sometimes talking about it can help. Vine nodded gratefully, taking another deep breath to steady herself. What about you? What are you doing out here so late? June chuckled softly. Oh, I just wandering around. I like to take walks at night, clear my head. Wine glanced around the park, noticing how peaceful it seemed despite everything. It's nice here. Quiet. Yeah, June agreed. Sometimes the quiet can be healing. They sat together for a while, sharing stories of their lives and finding common ground in unexpected places. Ryan learned that June was a student studying psychology at a nearby university, passionate about helping others navigate their emotions. June in turn admired Ryan's courage and resilience in the face of betrayal. Eventually, Ryan's thought turned back to Taehyung and Yoonji. I don't know what I'm going to do, she admitted softly. I can't even think about seeing them right now. June nodded understandingly. You don't have to decide anything tonight. Take your time, process everything. I just feel so lost, Wine confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. It's okay to feel that way, June assured her, but remember, you're not alone. They sat together for a while longer, the silence between them now comfortable and reassuring. The night wore on, the moon slowly making its journey across the sky. Eventually, Ryan felt a sense of exhaustion creeping up to her, both physical and emotional. I should probably get home, Ryan said reluctantly, standing up from the bench. June nodded, rising to her feet as well. Do you want me to walk you? Ryan hesitated, touched by June's offer. I think I'll be okay. Thank you, though. June smiled warmly. Take care of yourself, Ryan. And remember, if you ever need to talk to someone, Ryan returned the smile, feeling a flicker of hope amidst the pain. I know where to find you. With a final wave, Ryan left the park and started the walk back to her apartment. The streets were quieter now, the earlier chaos replaced by a sense of introspection. She replayed her encounter with Taehyung and Yoonji in her mind, feeling a mixture of anger and sadness, but also a newfound resolve.